ध्यायेत् शारदचन्द्रसुन्दरमुखम् ताम्रारविन्देक्षणम् भक्ताभीष्टवराभयप्रदकरम् कौपीनमात्रोज्ज्वलम् स्वात्मानन्दरसानुभूतिविवशम् सर्वानवद्याङ्गकम् श्रीमन्तं श्रीरमणीश्वरं गुरुवरं योगासनाध्यासितम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् ध्यायेत् श्रीरमणीश्वरम् हृदयकुहरमध्ये केवलं ब्रह्ममात्रम् यहमहमिति साक्षादात्मरूपेण भाति हृदि विषमनसा स्वं चिन्वतामच्युतव पवनचलनरोधात् आत्मनिष्ठो भवत्वम्। Namo Ramana. We will commence the Tuesday Satsang by listening to Bhagavan's Upadesham as it has been captured in the book Years in the Presence of Ramana, my Master, by Mahakrishna Swami. We have been reading his accounts about his stay in Ramanashramam and about Bhagavan. After reading this week's topic, meditating on it by Bhagavan's grace, we will have a 20 minutes practice session of Atma Vichara. Following that, Sarada Akka, our president, would be talking about or contemplating about self-enquiry as it has been captured in Ramana Gita by Ganapati Muni, which is again a question and answer, questions put by various devotees of Bhagavan and also Ganapati Muni to Bhagavan on self-enquiry and Bhagavan's answers to them. And finally, we will have the concluding prayers to Bhagavan. In this week, Mahakrishna Swami is talking about the daily life at the ashram, which is his first person account of how things went on in the ashram. In the course of time, man has created many fantasies about the masters and the spiritual path indicated by them. Those who expect a master to be inactive or monotonous or acting in a stereotyped manner would certainly become disoriented if they knew Bhagavan Sri Ramana. He would never react in the same manner twice. The unexpected was inevitable in him. He frustrated any expectation and went against all probabilities. He appeared to be completely indifferent to what went on in the ashram and paid great attention to some apparently insignificant detail. He adverted the person in charge of the daily tasks when necessary, but silenced those who came to him to complain about or criticize that very person. When some chore was done, he cooperated naturally, giving his orientations. This whole paragraph, as traveling in Ramana's path, we all have found what we think would be a probability that would happen. We know how things will be different. We can't, our experience with Bhagavan can never be said as stereotype, whether about his grace acting or the self-enquiry that we practice. You can never say that it's going to be a stereotyped approach. What works one day may not work the next day. So Mahakrishna Swami is telling the same thing. Though many of the sadhakas would reach a master or embark on a spiritual path, expecting things to become monotonous or something like as a master would be simply silently sitting, that was never a case, says Mahakrishna Swami, with Bhagavan. He was never stereotyped, and he would never react in the same way twice. And we have experienced this when we have traveled in the Ramana way. And the unexpected was inevitable, says Bhagavan. Mahakrishna Swami. And he frustrated any expectations and went against all probabilities. He also appeared to be completely indifferent to what went on in the ashram and paid great attention to some insignificant details. And talking about this, Nachu Swami says that that when we set a fire, we expect the fire to go from one direction and start burning. The fire we have set is for all the mental impressions that we have as sadhakas. But we know that it gets burnt somewhere else because the air picks up the fire, and we don't know how. We can't control the progress in which the fire happens. And Mahakrishna Swami is saying the same thing, that we may never know. He may be okay with some great gross mistakes we may do, but maybe become very significant, may become very attentive to some insignificant things. And he would be ready to guide us if we do a mistake. But if some third party wanted to complain about somebody, he would not allow that to happen. So this is how Bhagavan was, and that's how we experience him even in our journey towards him. So it's a very beautiful account, having traveled in the Ramana way, that we can relish, we can relate to. And further, Mahakrishna Swami says, all that is done in an ashram, all that is done for the master, must be done with love, no matter what it is. He who does some tasks, such as sweeping the floor, watering the plants, or helping in a ritual, must execute it remaining free from anxieties or worries, with a pure heart and full of devotion. Only in this way will the action be right, without interference of the profane ego, and there will be no attachments to the fruits of action. How Bhagavan would make everybody just follow the law of the karma yoga. Karmanyeva adhikaraste, ma phaleshu kadachana. He would insist that we do the work that has been ordained with full of love, whatever may be the work. But we need not bring our ego to interpret that or to do anything You simply have to act. And David Godman story I remember here, that how people would be. Like once Bhagavan said the stems of the brinjal have a lot of fat in them and it can be cooked, but many in the kitchen felt that it is not edible. Even cows don't like to eat them. So they didn't want to eat them. So they took them all and they buried them in one place so that nobody can see it. And Bhagwan, who would generally go about walking in one direction, took a different road and he saw that somebody had dug a pit. So he just pushed the sand around with his using his stick, and he figured out that all the stem were all buried there. And he said, "Look, I said this contains lot of fat, which who would give us in ashram so much of things. Who we don't get ghee or anything, but these people don't understand." And he removed all the stem. He took it, washed it, prepared it again for cooking, and he went and took it to one of the person in the kitchen and asked him to put some oil and start stirring it. And the person didn't ask how long. He kept on stirring it with the oil, in the oil, and almost found that stems got burnt out. But he continued to do as Bhagavan had told him that he should do it, and he will come and guide him further. So then, just about right time, Bhagavan came. He asked him to put the various ingredients, and finally, some edible thing was prepared out of it, and everybody in the dining hall cherished that food. So it is with us in sadhana. We just have to trust the master, as Akka keeps repeating our Upadesham by Muruganar Swami, that Bhagavan mele mulu nambike vechinde panninde. In the same way that we need to have full faith in Bhagavan and carry on doing the sadhana, whatever has been ordained, whether in the life or in the spiritual path, that we need to continuously keep on following it, and Bhagavan's grace will make it come through. Then, even though Sri Ramana, we continue to read, even though Sri Ramana was of an unshakable neutrality and extremely rigorous in respect to the fulfillment of the disciplines and teachings, his presence did not intimidate people, and he never imposed strange or extravagant behavior on the disciples, but gave them examples of simple and natural behavior. He lived integrated with reality, peace, and harmony. This A.R. Natarajan ji puts it in italics to highlight it. He lived integrated with reality, peace, and harmony. His manners did not cause constraint, and the recent arrival immediately felt at ease before him. His conversation was full of good humor, and his smile was contagious. All in him and in the ashram was clean and in order. Rigid schedules were kept, watches were rigorously maintained accurate, calendars were always kept up to date. With this external discipline, one learned self-discipline, which is natural in the state of meditation. And because of this needs no effort. Sri Ramana gave preference to all that was simple. He liked to sit on the floor, but people insisted that he use a sofa, and this became his place during the greater part of the day. On one occasion, Ramana commented about this. In the first years of my stay here, I sat directly on the floor with a rug, without a rug or any type of covering on the ground. I had the freedom to do this. The sofa where I currently repose is a slavery. I am not authorized to sit where I like, where I please. Is this not a slavery? We should be free to do what we want. To be served by other people is an obstacle to this freedom. The activities began around 4 in the morning. At 5 o'clock came the devotees who regularly meditated and then returned to their professional affairs. Innumerable tasks were divided among the disciples. Some took care of the flowers and the garden, others helped in the kitchen, others dedicated themselves to the scriptures, each one giving of his virtues and abilities. Each one giving of his virtues and abilities. There was no difference among the duties, all were considered equally important. Sri Ramana always said that he who works needs work much more than he who benefits from its fruits. I repeat, Sri Ramana always said that he who works needs work much more than he who benefits from its fruits. He taught that the virtue of work must be acquired by all, and he was the first to set an example. What a beautiful account of things. And we can relate to this, the way the morning satsangs and the way all of us have been ordained with respective jobs according to our virtues and abilities. We all get together and Bhagavan is there whenever we get together, whether it is in the morning satsang or the evening satsang. And he is there and we meditate with him, and then we all go back to our professional affairs. Whatever that has been ordained to us, it may be working in the kitchen, garden, or whatever that may be, and which has been ordained according to our abilities, says Bhagavan here, and Mahakrishna Swami here. And we also realize that the work, when I read this line, Sri Ramana always said that he who works needs work much more than he who benefits from its fruits. And when we look at this, and we also look at the Kartruragneya Prapyate Padam, Karma Kim Param, Karma Tad Jadam. Then why is Bhagavan saying when karma is all Jadam in Upadesha Saram, that he is saying here that he who works needs work? How does these two go together? The only way to transcend that Jadam of work perhaps is only to work out all that we need to do. And therefore, Bhagavan, according to our abilities, ensures that we work, and he insists that work is not for somebody's sake, it is for your own sake. You work it out so much that it benefits you more, understand that it benefits you more than it benefits the one who gets the fruit of the work. So essentially, is saying it, we have to exhaust kind of or transcend, we can only transcend this work only by working out, and it is more something that we as sadhakas need it more than whoever is benefited from the fruit of our work. And this he thinks that we must all acquire, and therefore he set himself as an example. We can continue to see how he, in the next paragraphs, next week, we can see how Bhagavan would do all the activities in the kitchen, in the ashram, whenever he was free and there was no visitors, and whenever he would not be busy with proofreading or writing something, he would use all his time for the benefit of others. So he here it very clearly emphasized how the karma yoga has to be practiced. So with Bhagwan's great grace, with which we have come to this most direct path of self-enquiry, the the karma that or the practice that has been prescribed for us is to diligently inquire with every thought, to whom is this? And that reveals that it is for me. And understanding here that exercise of inquiring to whom is this thought, and the exercise or the work to further inquire who am I, is more beneficial for me much more than for anybody else. Therefore, I should be diligently further asking, who am I? What do I really refer to as I? And by tracing the I thought to its source, or what do I really refer to as I, the mind which was outward towards work, towards thoughts, towards object, will be diverted to its source, the source of the mind, which is the self. And by repeated practice, Bhagavan assures that the mind will gain enough strength to remain at the source. Revati Ma, can you help me with time? I forgot to bring my 20 minutes, Ma. Thank you. Namo Ramana. Over to Sarada Akka. Namo Ramana Akka.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as a self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self manifest as Ramana, we in this part of the satsang are meditating on the verses of Ramana Gita and the light which these verses throw on self-enquiry and the practice of self-enquiry. We, by Bhagavan's grace, have completed the meditation on chapter 14, which is Jivan Mukti Vichara, and we will now be beginning the meditation on chapter 15, which is Shravana Manana Nididhyasanam. So, Bhagavan in the chapter on Jivan Mukti had told us that there is no demarcation, no difference in Jivan Mukti, although we may perceive various apparent differences, and all these are in accordance with the divine plan. That's all it is, and it doesn't really matter. Nothing matters in Jivan Mukti other than the state of Mukti itself. Now here, it is the next questioner is Muni himself. So he says, Shravanam nama kim natha, mananam nama kim matam, kim va munikula shrestha, nididhyasana muchyate. The question is simple. Bhagavan, what is the true meaning of Shravana? What is the true meaning of Manana? And what is the true meaning of Nididhyasana? Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana are very famous words in traditional sadhana. Therefore, the Muni wants Bhagavan's explanation regarding these terms. In fact, if we look at Ramana Gita, Muni has encouraged the disciples, his disciples, to question Bhagavan about various things, like even like Shakti, like Jivan Mukti, or like Stri Sannyasa, because he is very keen that all the areas of spiritual doubts should be covered, the gamut should be covered, or the essence of the possibilities of spiritual doubts should be covered, and he should get Bhagavan's answers for these doubts, which he believes, and he says also in several places in Ramana Gita, are conclusive answers. They are new insights and they are conclusive answers. So one need not go to any scripture beyond this scripture is the Muni's vision. So when one delves into Ramana Gita, one will have a complete gamut of Bhagavan's answers on various spiritual doubts. So here he is bringing up this important topic of Shravana Manana Nididhyasana. Normally that is the scale. They say first one should do Shravana. One should listen to the words of a teacher, or one should listen to the scriptures being read, etc. One should listen. One should listen and then know about the truth. Then one should start meditating oneself, and finally, through practice, one has to attain. Now, Muni says, Ityevam Bhagavan Prishto Maya Brahma Vidambaraha Dvavimshe Divase Pratar Abravit Shishya Samsadi. So, Abravit Shishya Samsadi. On the 22nd, says Dvavimshe, 22nd of August, and all this is happening in 1917. He had already mentioned 1917 earlier, so he's not mentioning this. And he spoke in the morning, he said, Pratar, and he was Shishya Sansadi. There was a gathering of devotees, says Muni, and to that gathering of devotees, Bhagavan spoke. Vedashishasthavaka Vedashishasthavakyanam Arthavyakyanapurvakam Acharyat Shravanam Kechit Shravanam Parichakshate. So Bhagavan is answering. Veda Shirshastha Vakyana. Veda Shirsha. What is Veda Shirsha? Veda Shirsha is the head of the Veda. Means or it is also called Vedanta. Veda Shirsha, Veda Anta, the ultimate, which is the Upanishads, the peak of the Vedas, the essence of the Vedas, that Vakyanam. Artha Vyakhyana Purvakam. Bhagavan says, along with the Artha, the meaning, and along with the Vyakhyana, the Upanishads. So, Acharyat Shravanam. Okay. So, listening to all this, listening to Vedantic texts, and listening to the meaning and the commentary which is given by Acharyas. Acharyas such as Shankaracharya has written the commentary on all the Upanishads, on all the essential Upanishads. Other Acharyas have also written that. So he says, some people say this is Shravana. Bhagavan is saying, some people say Shravana is listening to what? Listening to the Upanishad, Vakyas, the Upanishads, with the meaning and commentary given by great Acharyas. Apare Shravanam Prahur Acharyadviditatmanah Giram Bhasha Mayinam Cha Swarupam Bodhayantiyah. So he says this is one school of thought. But then the other school of thought is Shravana is listening to who? Swarupam Bodhayantiyah, one who is abiding in the self. Listening to the words of one who is the knower of the self. And the explanation, his experience, that means listening to Bhagavan's words. So what he is saying is sort of, he's saying in a graded manner. He says, because he starts with saying, some people say listening to scriptures. Listening can here mean reading also. Because in those days, it was, listening was the mode. Written documents were available to very few, if at all. And knowledge was passed on only through the oral tradition. So the guru would speak and the disciple would listen and imbibe. Literally, Shravanam was listening. But now it could also mean study or reading. Not a detailed study, just reading so that we get the information. So that level of reading of what? Of commentaries of great acharyas. That could be Shravana. But apparently Bhagavan is suggesting that better than that is to listen to the words of a Jivan Mukta, one who is abiding in the self. So meditating directly on the experience of the Jivan Mukta, the works of the Jivan Mukta, which is like, even if you take now, Bhagavan is indicating here that Rather than read the commentaries of Adi Shankara, which is good, why not read his own works? Direct experience of Adi Shankara. So the direct experience, his stutis, his works, the direct words of the Jivan Mukta. Here for us, the direct words of Bhagavan Ramana, Upadesha Saram, Ulladu Narpadu. So many texts are there, and here now the Ramana Gita, which is also the words or the experience of Bhagavan. So he says, he does not say this is better than the other, but he is talking of 1, 2, 3. So one may see that there is a subtle indication that for us, the better way for us to dwell is to dwell on Bhagavan's words, better to support our self-inquiry. But then Bhagavan does not stop there. Shrutva Vedanta Vakyani Nija Vakyani Va Guroho Janmantariya Punyena Jnatva Obhayamantara. So he says, having listened to the Vedic texts or Guru's exposition of one's true nature, or without either, by accumulated merit of past lives, if one listens to one's heart, declaring that it is the root of the I thought, apart from the body, it is in fact listening to the truth. So this is the next. Aham pratyaya moolam tvam sharirader vilakshanam itidam shravanam chittat shravanam vastuto bhavet. Bhagavan is saying actual shravana is aham pratyaya moolam. Aham pratyaya is the I thought, the I feeling. I am Sarada. In that I, what is it that says I? That I, the moolam, the source of that within the body's presence. Sharirader vilakshanaha. That source, listening to that source is itidam. This is shravanam chittat. Shravanam vastuto bhavet. Chittat shravanam. Itidam chittat shravanam. Shravanam vastuto bhavet. Listening to this I. That is, listening to the aham spurana is real shravana, says Bhagavan. And how does this happen? This he had said in the previous word. Shrutva Vedanta Vakyani. Either because one has learned, listened to Vedanta Vakya, by the merit of listening to Vedanta Vakya, suddenly one may be able to get in tune with the Aham Spurana. Or Nija Vakyani Va Guru, or by the listening to the experience of the Guru, one may be able to experience the Aham Spurana. Or Bhagavan says, Ubhayamantara. One may not have listened to any Vedanta. One may not have listened to the Guru Vakya also, but Janmantariya Punyena. Because one has finished one's sadhana in the earlier lives, one may suddenly, the Spurana may suddenly come, because we find in the lives of Punjaji, for example, one instance, that suddenly he is blessed with Nirvikalpa Samadhi, that experience. But until he comes to Bhagavan, he doesn't understand exactly what it is, its implication. But he gets it. So one may, because of Janmantariya Punya earlier, be able to do what? Be able to listen to the I declaring itself in the heart, in the root, in the source as I. Like that, the Aham Spurana declaring itself. When he says, just listening to that, just being with that Aham Spurana without doing anything else, without trying to impose any other thoughts on it, but the whole of one's attention being focused only on that chittat shravanam. So one is listening, actually listening. Even in English, there is a demarcation between the word hear and listen. Hearing is superficial, listening is with total attention. So, listening to the Aham Spurana, Bhagavan says, is real Shravana. So, one's attention should get back to the source. Get back to the source. What is the source of this I thought? When one keeps on questioning or observing its rising and falling into the source, then when it abides there, Bhagavan says the aham will take over and it will shine. And allowing it to simply shine and listening to it is true Shravana. In the next sessions, we will go into what Bhagavan says about Manana and Nididhyasana. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri.
Namo Ramana. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabhiram Chinta Vihinam Hrudi Chintayami Chinta Vihinam Hrudi Chintayami